Hey y'all, and welcome to BG Codes. I am Bradgarropy, and today is a big day for me. It is my 1 year anniversary working at Adobe. And let me tell you, it's been a wild ride. I've built some really cool stuff that's been released to the world. And what I like to do is every major milestone, like every 6 months, I like to reflect on how my time at the company has been, write a little review, and share it with y'all. I do this because at my previous job, I stayed there for 10 years and wasn't very happy for a majority of it there at the end. So I'm doing this to keep myself in check, make sure I'm happy, make sure things are going well. So without further ado, this is my 1 year anniversary review at Adobe. And I wrote up this nice little Notion note here, and I'm just going to kind of walk through it live with you guys and tell you what I think. So I'm going to start off with kind of the fluffier stuff and then get into the more serious stuff towards the end. So 1 year in, what's new? Adobe has constantly bought and renovated office space ever since I started. We've got one new space that's been finished, and that's where I'm now seated, and a second new space opening up soon. They also put in a brand new gym. It's pretty dang nice. Tons of awesome free food and drinks, from like snacks like M&Ms or chips or cereal to like sparkling water and cold brew, all sorts of good stuff. Um, Free accessories. Anytime you need a mouse, a keyboard, a charger, anything, just walk up to the tech cafe, you get it for free. And then they've also kind of created a couple lounge areas that have video games and different kind of like gaming systems. They actually have an entire racing chair where you could sit and play Gran Turismo. That's super fun. So awesome, awesome offices, and I love walking into work. Not to mention they're located inside of the Domain in Austin, Texas, which is just a great like fancy business slash residential area. Very cool. Benefits are still awesome. They have a fitness fund that you can buy like smartwatches or fitness equipment with. And I've definitely taken advantage of this. I bought a smartwatch last year, and this year I got a smartwatch for my wife. And we've also bought some gym equipment here and there, seeing that we do have a home gym. Finally got to go to a couple holiday parties. Their Halloween party was pretty fun. It was kid friendly. But the Christmas party was kind of the big banger. They had it out at this big place called the Oasis on the lake. Um, Lots of fun. It was a very big venue, good food, tons of people came, open bar. It was a lot of fun. Um, and then recently, with the kind of coming of the coronavirus, and now that we all have to work from home, Adobe offered $500 of a work from home fund that you can spend on anything to like improve your work from home setup. I actually bought this light that you can't see, but you can definitely see the effect of, and I'll be getting some better recording gear here in the future. Moving on to team building. Things have been going really great with my team. We built and launched a product, so there was definitely a lot of bonding happening, and we've done happy hours together. And after our product launch or went EAP, my manager always celebrated, whether that was with like cupcakes and champagne in the office or taking us out on Adobe's dime to go celebrate at the bars, up and down the Domain. So my team and I definitely feel our successes together. We go out for lunches a lot. They have this really cool Slack application at Adobe called Donut, where it just pairs you up with somebody randomly, and you're supposed to go like get a coffee or hang out with them. I still use that religiously. It's been one of my goals to meet many people at this company and be more friendly, and I think I've accomplished that. And last but not least, I love stickers, and I actually designed and printed stickers for my team. This was the first iteration, and that was cool and all, but the second iteration, I went more minimal and did just the P-Rex head. So that was a lot of fun. Teammates really love that. Moving on to professional development. Adobe has a $1,000 professional development fund that you can spend on really whatever you'd like. And I use this to take a ton of courses. I am a subscriber to Scott Tolinsky's Level Up tutorials, and he puts out a ton of good courses, one every month. I recently just finished custom React hooks, and I took full stack React and Firebase that James Quick was the instructor for. Phil Hawksworth released a free course that I took. I bought Wes Boss's Beginner JavaScript to just kind of cover any holes that I may or may not have had. And Adobe's totally cool with you spending time to do this stuff as well, although most of this was done in my free time. Next up, we've got conferences. So I attended the remote Magnolia JS conference and took 2 days off of work for that. Adobe was totally supportive there, and they love kind of hearing what happened at those conferences. So typically I would take that back and share notes with the team. And then I'm also going to Smashing Conf in October in Austin. And then probably one of the most fun things I've ever done was a hackathon. So Adobe hosted a hackathon, and I came up with this really cool idea to make a federated GraphQL server for some of Magento's microsystems. Maybe like think accounts management, a products API, a product recommendations API, just different pieces of the system. And the hackathon went really well. It was me and one other guy. We didn't win the popular vote, but the idea was actually picked up and is officially in the proof of concept phase for the organization. So it's definitely going somewhere. That was a ton of fun. I've never done that before. And that took, I think, maybe like a week or 3 days or something like that away from your normal work to do. So speaking of normal work, let's talk about what I worked on over the past year. When I first joined, I was on the product recommendations team, and that project was starting from essentially zero. And I kind of built and owned the majority of the JavaScript in product recommendations. So this included an SDK, some JavaScript for storefront events tracking, and of course the admin configuration UI, which was a React app. This product actually officially launched early in April, I think. So once that was done, I kind of transitioned and started working on this new feature coming down the pipe, search. And kind of the same thing. I'm doing the UI for the storefront, and I'm also doing the UI for the backend admin configuration. And I own both of those projects. I'm the sole developer here, and so it gives me a lot of freedom. And then there was a lot of Magento extensions to go along with all these UIs that just helped loading them into a Magento instance. Along the way, we used Adobe Spectrum Design System quite a bit, and I've made some PRs there. And so it's really cool to be involved in such a big company-wide design system, something I don't have a ton of experience with. And so given that I'm the sole developer on a lot of these projects, I get to pick and choose my own technologies, even though they do kind of adhere with Adobe standards. It's stuff that I would want to use. So lots of Docker for build process, Cypress for testing is something I picked up recently, GraphQL for a lot of the APIs, and then I'm using Webpack to build React and styled components. Thank God, no Create React app. And so I'm using all the most modern React 16 stuff. I'm using context, I'm using hooks, and I'm using portals to power these applications. And it just goes to show how powerful the React library is. Hosting all this stuff on CDNs like Akamai or S3 with CloudFront. And I definitely got some more experience with event tracking things with Snowplow and a lot of new browser APIs that I hadn't used before. So I'm using a lot of fun, modern technology, and I love it. Next up is management. And I think if there's any qualms I had after a year of working at Adobe, it might be with management. Very early on, my first line manager left. And since then, I've been reporting to the director of engineering. Now, she's awesome. But there's a downside. So reporting to the director of engineering means any project you work on will have like a lot of clout, a lot of follow, a lot of eyes on it because that director is talking about it constantly. But one drawback there is that director is working on other things more important than kind of managing individual engineers. And so with that comes a lot of trust and support. So my manager trusts me a lot. She empowers me to make the right decisions and supports what I do. But it also means that I don't get a ton of hand holding and a lot of direct manager involvement, which a lot of people would kind of dream about that. But there's definitely certain situations in which I've found it's like, man, a real hands-on manager would help a lot here. Um, and another great thing about Adobe is the product managers. They manage the backlog for you. They come up with all the new features. They'll definitely take your input, but these product managers are outgoing, aggressive, and they're very good at their job. So I'm thankful to have product managers that kind of just lay out my work. My previous job, I had to invent things for myself, and that's not the way it is at Adobe. So I think management is probably the only thing that I feel could be improved upon a little bit at Adobe. Not to say that any of the managers are bad. It's that we could actually use one more in my organization. Next up is leadership. I've been given a lot of opportunities to show my leadership, and I've also taken a lot of opportunities to show my leadership. I've got some mentoring going on with some of my peer engineers, where I kind of teach them anything I can, and I also run the front end guild still, and that's going strong. It happens every 2 weeks, and I've brought in some really awesome guests beyond giving some talks on my own. I brought in Rob Snow from the Adobe Spectrum Design System team, and even Henry Zhu from Babel, thanks to a coworker of mine who's contributed to the project. So that was definitely awesome to have those guys talk to us. One of the cool things about working with a product that actually shipped and went live, product recommendations, is I get to interact directly with customers to provide support. There's a Slack channel for this, and they can go in there and ping us. And so I've had some great like one-on-one time with eager early adopters, just to help people through the process of getting that up and running. And I do want to call out, working on something that's gotten released to the public is extremely rewarding. This is Magento's website, and product recommendations actually has a whole page on here dedicated to that feature. And you'll see this lady's typing on a computer. That's my UI. That's the UI that I wrote. This is what product recommendations looks like on the storefront. This is a section that my coworkers wrote directly. And here, this streamlined workflows and metrics. This is the UI that I wrote. And it's so cool that I can like copy and paste this link, send it to any of my friends or family, and say, I did that. That part right there, I wrote that code. And even cooler is like stuff like this, where there's marketing material like done up for the feature, which also features my UI. And it's got like this really cool beat, and it's kind of jivey, and they navigate in there, and like that's my UI. I coded all that. So it definitely makes me proud to be like really wrapped into the Magento brand, the Adobe brand, stuff that I worked on directly. To kind of round this out, I'm definitely somebody who's always looking for the next step in my career, whether that be a promotion at the current job or maybe, as I learned my lesson from staying at my first job too long, looking for a new job. So career advancement, my manager gave me this great, essentially like Excel sheet that said like, here's what's expected of you at this level, and here's what is expected of you at the next level. Fill that sheet out. When you're ticking all the boxes, you earn and deserve a promotion. And so I love that availability, and I love how it starts conversations. And I've been very open about where I want to be within, this next quarter or two. And I like that openness. She seems very willing to entertain those conversations, whereas Dell, it was just more like, we'll think about it. The line's long. So overall, I gave a satisfaction rating of 4 stars. Um, and in the past, I've also done this for my 6 month review. I gave a 5 star rating at 6 months. So I'm trying to be critical about what's happening. And I think the reason I knocked it down a star is there was definitely some um, crazy times where it felt like I got moved off to the new project search and was still getting pulled back into the old project product recommendations for work. And there were times like that where I felt a manager would really be nice to have. And I love that my skills were in demand, but at the same time, it made it tough to balance work, like what priorities and things like that. So I think just some times there where stuff like that wasn't clear and could use more guidance. I think that might be why I bumped it down to 4 stars. Otherwise, I love the projects I'm working on. I love the people I'm working with. I love the technology that I'm using, and I love all the freedom that Adobe gives me. So that's it. If you're considering working at Adobe, please hit me up. I'd be happy to put you in contact with the right people, and I highly recommend it as a place to work. Thank you guys for tuning into BG Codes. You can always interact with me more on Twitter at twitter.com/bradgarropy or on my own website, bradgarropy.com. Y'all take care.